We're a mutual insurer operating exclusively in the transport industry. We're 100% owned by our customers. For 46 years, this is our only business. We insure large and small throughout the intermodal space. We cover the cargo itself, containers, and other carrying equipment, the liabilities of freight forwarders and VOCCs, and ports and terminals on a global basis. We insure 80% of the boxes in international commerce, and we'll write just under $200 million in premiums this year. We hope to pay out $115 million in claims, and we really do hope to pay those claims. It's through this claim service, rather than any financial brilliance, by which we distinguish ourselves. Paying claims and understanding how and why they happened provides a context and experience for us to contribute to industry debate. But mainly, it allows us to do our real job, which is improving your profitability by preventing your losses. I want to give a very brief look into recent developments in managing complexity and risk in moving containerized goods. I'll discuss issues as they pertain to the cargo, the box, and the ship in turn. Now, these slides are a bit dense, and with citations and links that might be helpful. First, cargo. There are two key developments this year: the CTU code and amendments to SOLAS. The CTU code provides guidelines for all aspects of loading and securing cargo transport units. The code applies to cargo to transport operations throughout the entire intermodal transport chain and provides guidance not only to those responsible for packing and securing cargo, but also those who carry, receive, and unpack these units. The CTU does not have the force of law at this point, though the code structure facilitates incorporation in international law. Practically, the code can already be brought into litigation as describing industry practice. In a large casualty or even a small cargo loss, the CTU can be used to show what you should have done and hold you liable for falling short of these guidelines. You will be held to this standard. In that sense, it's not at all optional. The code should be incorporated into your procedures both as a proactive safety measure and also as an economic risk management tool. All shippers should be encouraged to use the CTU code and utilize those sections that relate to their cargo and their operations. Carriers should add reference to the code and its requirements to booking documentation. You should take advantage of training support such as CTU Pack that can be used by shippers. Chapter 4 is the really neat bit. It's an innovation, mapping the flow in cargo management from before the shipment through to delivery. When goods are being entered into the supply chain, inevitably there are varying degrees of knowledge about that cargo, and the responsibilities recognize this. Once a unit is packed, there'll be less scope to correct things, so it's unsurprising that nearly 2/3 of the responsibilities cover the process up to the point that the doors are closed. From that point onwards, responsibility is more diligence-based. Be alert and follow procedures. 2014 also saw culmination of work amending SOLAS for gross mass verification. As of July 2016, shippers will be required to not just declare, but verify the gross mass of laden containers. This verification must be communicated in shipping documents and provided sufficiently in advance to be used in the ship planning process. If there's no verified gross mass, there will be no load. Your box will not move. Note that if the ship and terminal load without having the required verified gross mass, it's their liability as well as the shippers. This is not just a shipper requirement. The change impacts everyone in the container supply chain. Ship and terminal operations will benefit from improved gross mass verification, stacking and stowing decisions, ship trim to improve fuel performance, and acceptance of paying freight. There are benefits beyond loss prevention. It'll be a challenge to ensure the information flows are optimized so that carriers and others will be able to improve their efficiency and profitability in line with the additional and more dependable information. So what are the key issues to consider? The verification process is fairly straightforward. SOLAS provides two alternative methods. You either weigh the laden container or weigh all the constituent parts and add them up. The regulation applies to laden units only, which assumes that carriers have adequate systems already in place to ensure that containers declared as empty are truly empty. This may not always be the reality. Carriers will need to validate their internal processes. Now, since this revision is required because of a lack of trust in declaration, there has to be a question as to whether we can truly trust verification. As a result, the lines, and probably terminals, will need to consider validation processes, including check weighing. Attention is also being given to ISO standards relating to containers and lashing. These standards are at the core of the container industry. They govern dimensions and rating values, standards for the corner and intermediate fittings, specifications and testing, methods of handling containers and equipment, and techniques for securing them. Also, the marking of containers and stacking boxes. The ISO standard covers two primary concerns: lifting damage, caused mostly when one end falls away under load, and lashing damage, where there's no support beneath the face. There will be damage to the unit, and lashings will likely fail. The ISO also considers the interconnectors, which include deck fittings, manual, semi-auto, and fully automatic twist locks. On larger ships, the top container can move approximately a half meter just due to the flexing of the twist locks. Containers can move at 40 kph transversely due to rolling. It's therefore essential that the interconnectors are well-founded and tested to withstand these forces. There's also the continuing issue of fully automatic twist locks, with testing regimes left to be determined between class, owner, and manufacturer. Now, there are two problems. The actual performance does not seem to be consistent. Sea conditions can mimic the disengagement process. Also, ISO requires 800 square millimeters purchase for corner fittings. Manual and semi-auto twist locks achieve this. Fully auto, possibly not. If lines use them, how satisfied are you that fully automatic twist locks will work? In the event of a casualty, you'll be required to justify this decision-making on more than an economic basis. As the industry has developed, the ISO has been using average gross mass figures of 12 tons per container, and then 15, and now 18 tons being proposed. This is well within the limits for individual containers, if properly loaded and stowed. That's not the problem. The problem is the combined mass of 10 or 11 high stacks on deck. Superimposed mass standards are vital to addressing this issue. Now, spending money. This is a difficult market for everyone: the merchant, the shipper, the carrier, and I can say for the insurer as well. All of us are cutting costs. This is not just an emergency measure anymore, but a permanent condition. It's natural and necessary to cut costs, but fixation on price as the primary purchasing criteria is not natural or necessary or healthy. Knowing the price of everything but the value of nothing is Oscar Wilde's commentary on not just this industry, the majority of players in any industry in difficult economic climate. A focus on your vendor's price to the detriment of your profitability. A fixation on price can be extremely expensive. The money that you lose may not be as immediate or as measurable as what's on your supplier's invoice, but it can have a greater impact over time. This puts the spotlight on the quality of components and the regulatory testing that they will have passed. The regulations are minimums, and they're focused on safety. They're not at all concerned with your profitability. Buyer testing, your testing, is focused on your needs. Paint is a great example. Cheap paint is enormously expensive. The expense just comes later. I would also highlight issues associated with a top-down budgetary approach to M&R, in which a local actor may know that 1,000 euros spent this year may save you 5,000 over the next 2, but he's not empowered to make that decision. Ultimate commercial efficiency in container movement may mean a box rarely hits a depot, and there's no opportunity for M&R. In effect, you're outsourcing your inspection function to your customers, who have no incentive or expertise to do the job right. Now, the pictures on the right of this slide are all about a culture of non-reporting. Our investigation showed old distortions on all 4 corner castings. There are previous incidents that were not reported, and the box remained in service until this accident happened. Too often, unless an issue halts operations, it's not noted or reported. Damaged equipment, even if usable, needs to be flagged before the accident happens. On to the ships. This is the MSC Oscar, the largest container ship in the world, 19,224 TEU. My company is betting on the safety of over 15,000 of those containers. Megaships have our complete attention. Industry analysts say that by the end of next year, each of the 4 Asia-Europe line alliances will have at least one weekly service equipped with ships over 18,000 TEU. And in total, there's likely to be 6 or 7 such services. ULCVs are a complete rejection of the trap of knowing price but not value. These vessels are, so far, pure value, despite their high price. The benefits of large ships to the shipping lines are easily understood and well known, which is why you'll see sustained building of these ever bigger ships throughout the worst of a dire shipping market. The risks are also well known, including navigation issues, the raising of stakes in vessel casualty, and magnification of commercial bets. The risks for ports and terminals are also significant: dredging, capital expenditures, berthing, and congestion reaching well inland from the terminal. Terminal operators should take precautions that are relevant to the specifics of their own operations. Bigger ships and greater container volumes will only augment the exposures that are already inherent in their current operations. These risks can all be minimized by efficient maintenance programs, proper use of safety technology, and adequate windstorm protection, whatever the size of the ship being worked. The business case for big ships is being borne out, and they'll continue to come into service. They change the game, and they change the risk. In our estimation, the potential for damaging incidents to occur is generally more of a factor of an individual operation's adoption of best practice, sound maintenance, and application of efficient safety measures, rather than the size of ships or volumes of cargo. Bringing all issues together concerning the interactions between ship, lashing, containers, and cargo are vital for safety and profitability in the maritime mode. Forces acting on containers are dependent on the ship and the weather it encounters. Stack stability relies on the integrity of the container structure. The container structure relies on the cargo being properly packed and secured. The well-known MSC Napoli casualty report referred to safety margins as being eroded or eliminated. In the context of international trade and the need for all to take up the responsibilities, it's perhaps worth introducing a legal doctrine which insurers know well: uberrime fides, meaning utmost good faith. This means that all parties to an insurance contract must deal in good faith, making a full declaration of all material facts. This contrasts with another legal doctrine, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Whatever is in the box and how it's been placed there relies so much on trust. Each party needs to act with utmost good faith. Each has a personal responsibility. There's a need for wide adoption of CTU and SOLAS standards throughout the industry, and continued strengthening of those standards, as well as both theoretical and practical hands-on training to back up that responsibility. This will help ensure that the chain of responsibility remains unbroken. Thank you for your time.